Accordingly, effective immediately, I am banning...
Boom. In a move no one saw coming, Brittney Griner, once the face of the WNBA, is now banned for life.
Just days after Adam Silver issued a permanent ban on Brittney Griner from the WNBA, the fallout has grown into a full-blown crisis. What started as a league decision has now turned into a player-led uprising, with some of the WNBA's biggest names blasting the move.
Y'all, Shaq snapped. And he did it live. We're talking straight up called out Adam Silver by name, midstream, no PR filter, no corporate chill, just a great deal of anger. And the way Silver reacted, man, you could see it all over his face. The shock and embarrassment. Clearly he didn't expect to get pressed like this, especially not by Shaq. What's even better is that the clip is now all over social media, from TikTok and ESPN to WNBA Reddit. But before we get into that viral moment, we need to rewind just a little, because this wasn't some random emotional outburst. This came from a place of deep resentment, a long, painful buildup that started with how the league treated Brittney Griner.
This gotta stop, bro. So Brittney Griner has just been suspended for the entire season, as in the last week she has done some of the most diabolical things we have ever seen.
As you guys probably know, Brittney Griner has been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons lately, and contrary to what a lot of people might think, it has nothing to do with her game. After everything she sacrificed, the headlines should be about her leadership, her comeback, her legacy, but instead, the league basically tossed her aside, and it did it quietly, unceremoniously, and if we're keeping it a buck, almost cruelly. Any other player of her caliber would get a proper send-off and be treated like the legends they are. But with Brittney, it was less transparency and more silence. And then boom, rumors started swirling that the WNBA was planning to part ways with her. But get this, it wasn't because she was having performance issues, injuries, or anything like that. It was because, well, the higher-ups now think she's too controversial. And that's where Shaq said, enough. Now here's where it gets real. Shaq has always been one of those dudes who'll call it like it is. He doesn't sugarcoat, he doesn't play corporate nice guy. And for years, he's had a complicated relationship with Adam Silver. Sure, there's some mutual respect there, but Shaq clearly doesn't trust the guy, and he has never hidden that fact from the world. So when news broke that Brittney Griner was being pushed out at the same time that Silver was parading around talking about NBA expansion like nothing was wrong, Shaq hit live on Instagram. And he did not hold back. Shaq didn't go through the corners or try to speak in codes. He named Silver directly, asking him to answer for the way the league has treated Brittney. Is this how the league treats someone who put her body on the line for the game? Shaq's message was basically, don't talk to me about growing the sport if you can't protect your players. That wasn't just anger, that was deep betrayal. And it resonated with everyone who was watching it go down live. But why did this moment blow up so fast? See, Adam Silver had just wrapped a press conference hyping up the NBA's upcoming expansion teams. In any other circumstances, this would be a great move. Billion-dollar conversations are being held, new cities are entering the chat, and a whole new market just opened up for players. This is a chance to usher in a new era of basketball.
We see major sports change all the time. You mentioned the NBA. The three-point debate this year, I feel like, has gotten furious, and it's lasted for like 2 months. One thing that I hear people suggest is maybe get rid of the sideline threes because they're actually closer. When it comes to changing a game and changing the rules, it does seem like it's a little bit different when you're changing the actual playing surface or the court. When you sit in a room, do you expect that to get contested and to get heated? And how do you balance keeping history, but also maybe making alterations that could improve the game?
I'm not so concerned about the comparisons of Shaq to Bill Russell necessarily, to the extent that it becomes a different game, that there's three-point shooting in one era, there's not in another. I think we have to remain contemporary. At the same time, I think we have to be true to the game of basketball. There are certain things, that your four-point shots, things like that, which strike me as gimmicky. But on the other hand, I think potentially moving a three-point line, I mean, if you go back, I think it was Red Auerbach thought, it was the end of basketball when the three-point shot was added. And it took several, years, if not longer than a decade before teams really started changing the game in a way.
However, the timing couldn't have been worse, because just hours earlier, insiders started whispering that Brittney Griner wasn't just being benched, she was being phased out entirely. There was talk of quiet calls being made and internal memos being passed around. And then you had people close to the league saying this wasn't about her performance. It was politics, optics, and pressure from the higher-ups. So, while Silver's out here popping champagne about the future, one of the most iconic players in women's basketball is being shoved out the back door. And for Shaq, that was the final straw. Now back to the clip. For those who haven't seen it, it's hard to miss it if you look through the right accounts on Twitter and TikTok. Shaq's face is stone cold and his tone was giving, "This is not the time for jokes." You can tell this wasn't a clout-chasing rant. Shaq wasn't yelling for attention. He was just disappointed and very upset, but the moment that really hit was when he said, "If this is how y'all treat Brittney, don't even want to know what you do to someone without a name." That line right there had Silver pausing mid-clap back. It shifted the entire conversation from concern about one player to real questions about the legacy of the league as a whole. The worst part was, Silver didn't have an answer for that. No talking points, no carefully rehearsed lines, just silence.
I'm sure there's a lot of talk about viewership, whether it's up or down. You think we'll ever get consistently the same views like we got on Christmas Day?
Well, by almost any measure, there's never been more engagement in the NBA than there is at this moment. No time in our history. People are consuming our games in other forms, so we're doing fine.
What made this explode even faster was what happened after the live. Within minutes, WNBA fans started reposting clips of Shaq's rant on their Instagram stories. That was quickly followed up by players reposting the videos as well. And it wasn't just average players, it was veterans, people who had paid their dues to the game and earned themselves the right to call the league to order. Some of them reposted the clip without adding captions, while others had a thing or two to get off their chests. But the one thing they all agreed on was that the WNBA being called to order was long due, and the fact that Shaq was the one doing it was the cherry on top. But it didn't stop there. Before long, NBA players started chiming in too. Some were subtle, some didn't care whose feelings got hurt. You could feel the divide growing in real time, and league executives are starting to panic over what this could mean for them if the issue gets even more traction than this. Now this is where things spiraled, because fans saw through the league's charade. They started connecting the dots too. Silver's silence, the WNBA's vague statements, the expansion buzz meant to distract from the growing outrage. And they weren't having it. TikTok comment sections? Brutal. YouTube live chats during ESPN coverage became full of free Brittney comments. Some fans even started calling for the WNBA to be boycott until something changed. One fan said, "Boycott the WNBA. Don't support abuse and racism." Another commenter said, "It's time to boycott the WNBA All-Star Game. This league is a joke, should be thrown into the trash and closed for business." But that's not even the worst part. Sponsors were getting nervous, to the point where one league partner allegedly quietly paused their WNBA promo rollout until further clarity. Another flat out scrubbed Brittney's face from their site, not because they disagreed with her, but because they didn't want to be caught in the middle of this PR disaster. Unfortunately, it's the kind of corporate cowardice that fans have now come to expect from big corporations that partner with the WNBA. And of course, this time didn't go unnoticed. Now here's what's wild. Shaq has been dropping breadcrumbs for a while now, hinting at the disrespect players face in the league. Back in 2021, after another WNBA player spoke out about internal abuse, Shaq made a vague comment during a TNT segment: "Protect the players, no matter what league." At the time, people thought he was just talking in general, but now that quote is resurfacing everywhere. Fans are going back, stitching clips, connecting dots. More people are realizing Shaq knew more than he was letting on. And now that he's said it out loud, live and unfiltered, it's like the whole thing snapped into focus. So here's where it gets messy for Adam Silver. For years, he's been praised as the progressive commissioner, the guy who listens and stands with players, the forward-facing guy evolving the league in leaps. But now, that image is cracking. Because when your most iconic players from both the NBA and WNBA are saying enough is enough, your silence doesn't look strong. It looks weak, and worse, it looks guilty. It looks like you don't actually care. And even though he didn't mean to, Shaq just triggered something the league cannot walk back. Because this isn't just about Brittney anymore. It's about accountability, transparency, and the fact that a billion-dollar league is more concerned with image than integrity. One thing that makes this story hit even harder is the fact that Brittney herself hasn't said a word about any of this. Well, not directly at least. In a recent interview with Cam Newtown, Brittney opened up about the league's treatment of its players, expressing how sad it was that the league doesn't do enough to protect players. Although she was trying to be as honest as possible, it was clear that she didn't want to say too much that could possibly offend the league's higher-ups.
That's a little hard for the league to, deal with, but that's happening in our arenas. It's so easy to put some people out there in that arena. It's so easy to put a few people, around the arena that's just there to act like fans and listen and hear what's going on, and to be able to point these people out so we don't have to deal with that. Because me at a game feeling unsafe because we got people chanting me to go back to Russia or I'm un-American and all this other stuff, that's when it's like, all right, I can't even focus on the game because I'm trying to figure out what your intentions are, because this world crazy and we've seen some wild things. Anything can happen. I think, yeah, that's something that I would put in or implement, like.
It makes one wonder, what pressure is Brittney facing behind the cameras? Is she scared to come forward with what she knows? Because from all the moves fans have observed since this news went viral, it seems like there's more going on behind the scenes. People close to her have hinted that she's processing everything and feeling used and betrayed. Brittney carried this league. She put it on her back when no one else would. And this is how they repay her? Even if you disagree with how she handled certain moments, this isn't how you treat a veteran.
The WNBA players are making a statement. Yes! Check it out. Tonight is the WNBA All-Star game, and when the players came out for their pre-game warm-ups, they sent this message. As you can see, the shirt say, "Pay us what you owe us," and that's in reference to what's going on between the players and the CBA, the new collective bargaining agreement that has reportedly stalled at this point. My question to you is, what side are you on?
So now here we are. Shaq has called Silver out, players backed it, fans are demanding answers, sponsors are pulling back, and the media is circling. But guess who has remained silent through it all? Adam Silver. He hasn't offered any apology, no clarification, not even a vague, "we're looking into it." Unfortunately for him, his silence is making everything worse. Because what happens in the absence of leadership? People start writing their own narratives, and right now, the story being written is this. The league doesn't care about women, it doesn't care about players unless they're profitable, and even legends are disposable if they threaten the brand. And this brings us to the million-dollar question. What happens now? Because this isn't something a few tweets can fix. There's no PR cleanup or flashy commercial that could make it all go away either. And the wildest part? It didn't come from a journalist, whistleblower, or even Brittney herself. That would have been too clean-cut and easy to dismiss. Instead, it came from Shaq, a man who's seen the game from every side. Player, analyst, team owner, icon. And when he says this ain't right, you better believe people are listening. Now everyone is asking, why hasn't Silver said a word? Because the truth is that Silver can't ignore this forever. He can expand the league, launch new teams, and hype up the future all he wants. But until he answers for the way Brittney was treated, every spotlight will feel like shade. And that just means that this drama isn't over, not by a long shot.